This is The Minimum Commitment, film theory in small doses, where language isn't just communication, it's survival, and the only way forward is a non-zero-sum game. I'm Don Lawler, film scholar, one-man mix crew, and someone who believes that learning a new language might just change the shape of time. Let's get into it. Arrival, directed by Denis Villeneuve, opens with black, coupled with mournful music, like an exhale at the end of a long day. Moments out of order, emotions out of time. We're not being told a story, we're being invited into a memory already in motion. A voice, steady, soft, a little hesitant.
I used to think this was the beginning of your story. But now I'm not so sure I believe in beginnings and endings.
These words, spoken by Louise Banks, played with luminous restraint by Amy Adams, hang in the air like the first words of a prayer. Underneath this voiceover, images arrive. A child laughing, a mother smiling, sunlight on skin. And then, absence. The hospital. The stillness. The sorrow. A lifetime compressed into 4 minutes. Grief and love intercut without sequence. This is memory, unbound by time. The story has already told us its shape. Not linear, but circular. Villeneuve folds that shape into everything. Rings on fingers, gold earrings catching the light in a hospital room, the curve of a hallway that leads nowhere. This is a film about design. Repeated sounds, repeated frames, echoes folded back into the present. The recursive force of memory. Even before we meet the alien heptapods, the film is already speaking in circles. Arrival is one of those rare sci-fi films that doesn't care about saving the world. It's about whether we can understand it, and what happens when we fail. 12 alien vessels descend without warning. They hover just above the ground, silent, vertical, and inert. Their surfaces give no clue. Their presence feels less like invasion and more like punctuation. A question mark. Asking what comes next. The world waits in suspense. News channels repeat. World leaders assume rigid stances. Countries draw back behind closed doors. Before the aliens say a single word, humanity starts shouting over itself. Nations close ranks, information is withheld, and fear spreads faster than fact. The first casualty in First Contact is trust. Louise enters into this fracture, a linguistics professor, not a soldier, not a politician. She's pulled into a situation already on the verge of collapse. Her strength isn't in what she says. It's in how deeply she listens. In Arrival, survival hinges not on power, but on the patience to understand. Because here, communication isn't background noise. It is the plot, the structure, the test. The film doesn't ask whether we're clever enough to decode an alien language. It asks whether we're brave enough to understand each other, to speak with care, to listen with intention, to risk being changed by what we hear. Every moment in Arrival pivots on this. Will we choose fear or comprehension? Will we collapse into reaction or hold space for translation? Language becomes the threshold we must cross, and communication, true, vulnerable, patient communication, is the only bridge. Understanding is the battlefield. Every word, a risk. Louise is paired with physicist Ian Donnelly, played with disarming charisma by Jeremy Renner. Together, they're granted access to one of the alien vessels. Amid fog curls and low-lying mist, they arrive in silence. No one knows what to expect. There are no instructions, only an invitation. Inside the vessel, gravity shifts sideways. Surfaces defy explanation. Glass, mist, darkness, a space that feels more like a cathedral than a cockpit. Created for wonder, not for utility. And then, through a swirl of mist, they appear. The heptapods, massive and upright, moving as if they evolved in water, not bound to our planet's physics or to the planet's fear. They don't speak in words. What comes through is something stranger. A sound. A low, resonant pulse. Like whale song folded into metal. But even this sound isn't the primary mode of contact. Instead, meaning comes as shape. Circular symbols bloom in the air like smoke rings, thick and alive, suspended in space, each one complex, symmetrical, drawn all at once, no beginning, no end. This is semasiographic communication, a visual language that conveys meaning without reference to sound. No letters, no phonetics, no beginning or end. Each symbol, called a logogram, is dense, circular, and whole. Where human speech unfolds over time, the heptapod logograms exist outside of time. Meaning doesn't arrive piece by piece. It appears all at once. They don't experience language the way we do, and so they don't experience time the way we do either. This is linguistic relativity, the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis visualized. The idea that the language we speak shapes the way we think, and in turn reshapes how we see the world, what we notice, what we believe is even possible. For Louise, this is far beyond simple theory. As she learns the heptapod's language, her mind begins to change. She no longer remembers moments in order, she sees them all at once, past, future, and present folding into each other. The act of translation becomes an act of transformation. Amy Adams' performance changes with the story. She starts in solitude, calm, reserved, and disconnected. Her stillness reflects a life narrowed to routine. She doesn't seek change or revelation, but when the symbols begin to bloom before her, she begins to shift. Her face softens, movement slows. She starts to see time unfolding, circling, offering a choice. Denis Villeneuve captures that shift through visual formalism. The human world is sterile. Bureaucratic halls lit in flickering green, military bases washed in fluorescent gray. Everything is cold, clinical, temporal. But inside the heptapod chamber, the space feels less like a ship interior and more like a theater without seats. A darkened auditorium where something profound is about to unfold. The chamber isn't built for comfort. It's built to destabilize, to prepare the mind for a new way of seeing. Here, form becomes function. Language shapes perception, and perception becomes destiny. And with each new session, Louise steps closer to a kind of comprehension that can't be reduced to nouns and verbs. But comprehension isn't universal. Colonel Weber, played with firm restraint by Forrest Whitaker, represents the urgency of institutional mistrust, the military need for clarity where none exists. He wants understanding, but only on terms he can control. Answers that arrive too slowly are indistinguishable from threats. And in that space between expectation and ambiguity, language becomes dangerous. The heptapods offer a word: weapon. And it lands like a detonation. Is it a threat, a gift, a tool, or just a mistranslation? In that single word, the global conversation collapses. Troops mobilize. Allies turn on each other. Everyone assumes the worst. One word, spoken without context, interpreted as danger. That's the fragility of communication. The focus is on understanding precisely, not just hearing. The margin for error is crucial. One mistranslated word can turn an offer into an attack, not just semantically, but existentially. It's the difference between alliance and annihilation. Arrival is about the human cost of understanding, dressed up in a first contact alien film. Louise is hired for her skills in languages. The more fluent she becomes, the more her perception fractures. She begins to see not what was, but what will be, and then both at once. She will fall in love with Ian. She will have a daughter. She will lose that daughter. And she knows all of this long before it happens. And still, she says yes to the life ahead of her. Not in ignorance, but in full awareness of the sorrow it holds. This is the film's most devastating idea. Clarity doesn't protect us from pain. It deepens it, and still, we choose. Louise does, and in that choice, the film locates its heart. Grief is not the cost of love. It is the proof of it. To live a full life is to welcome its impermanence, to love someone knowing they will one day be gone. Louise embraces that truth because to turn away would be to lose everything all at once. The film ends as it began. A child's laughter, a mother's love, a voice echoing through memory. But now the shape has changed. What once seemed like origin is revealed as return. Arrival isn't told in sequence, it's felt in waves. Moments blur and recur as if memory and foresight speak the same language. Time becomes elastic, not something to measure, but something to experience. This is subjective time perception, where emotion overrides chronology and the future feels like a memory waiting to surface. We begin to see as Louise sees, not in order but all at once. The grief that once seemed final becomes a thread woven into presence. And presence, despite the pain, is how we begin again. This story never sought resolution. It offered recognition. The way a mother holds her child knowing she will one day let go. The way memory softens and sharpens in the same breath. The way love exists in loss and still somehow remains whole. As the story draws to its final image, the camera tilts downward, locked in steady descent, revealing a window to a large body of water, framed in quiet symmetry. Each pane a fragment of Louise's life, each moment held in stillness, and beyond the glass, the unknown, vast and unfinished. Here, formalism reaches its most gentle state, a piece that speaks in hushed tones. This is the price of knowledge, and yet you take the next step. That's your thought for the day. Minimum commitment, maximum meaning. See you next time. The Minimum Commitment is produced, recorded, and edited by Don Lawler. Music by Don Lawler.